One of the things that makes model railroading such an interesting hobby is that there are so many aspects to it. I've got a variety of techniques to share with you today, some of which may be new to you, some of which may be review, but all of which are guaranteed to be fun. To do this, we'll do exactly the same thing as we did with the masking tape. We'll lay a couple of lines of the paper tape on some glass, cut some 36-inch courses of that, and then, of course, because this is self-adhesive, it's the same thing as the masking tape, where you can add some patches and that sort of stuff. And you'd lay that down from the bottom up the same way as we did the masking tape, making sure you get some of those vertical seams. And again, what you wind up with is a really, really good looking roof that has a lot of really nice texture to it. And this is texture that you can really see. Tool that's specifically made for heat shrink tubing, and I'll show you how wonderful it works. All you need to do is rev it up, let it heat up a little bit, and then put it in front of your heat shrink tubing, and you can see how quickly that works. You can even put it up the end. And then a smart thing to do before it gets cool is to crimp that end on the front with your pliers, and that will keep it nice and tight at the end and keep water from getting into it. This is a great tool to have if you're doing a lot of work with heat shrink tubing. It's certainly worth the investment of buying the dedicated tool. But let's say you need to use some heat shrink tubing and you don't have that dedicated. When you've done your section of paint, you can let that dry a little bit, and then you can come along with your rail color. I'm going to use the rail brown color here. Again, it's the same process. You shake it up, make sure that the paint is mixed well in there. You get a nice glob of paint on your felt tip, and then you just drag this along the sides of the rails. You know, and take your time on this, because again, you're painting, you're not marking, so you want to make sure you get as much of that nickel silver shine off of the sides of the rails as you can. And you can see that that kind of turns out looking kind of fake. Let's say you don't like what you did at all. It's easy enough to take the Turpenoid and wipe down the side of that car, and basically you can start over on that area. Turpenoid, always wipe that paint off. See, so now we've got a clean start there. What you do is you'd go back with your pointed object, put some more dots on there, and then repeat the whole process again. Turpenoid, squeegee, wipe, brush. You can see how different that looks than what I had before. Wires going in and 2 wires coming out. And wouldn't it be much easier if you could use this 12-volt wire down in this terminal? And that's exactly what we're going to do. So what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of a solder joint here off of this 12-volt positive. We'll jump over this output and bring it down to this terminal over here. So now you've got 12 volts positive coming in there. We'll do the same thing with your 12 volts negative. We'll jump over this wire, go around here, jump over this wire, and you've got 12 volts negative coming in there. If you've got a corner like this, again, this is the outside of the building on my side of the table. Easy enough to glue these into the corner. They're styrene, so they'll hold with styrene cement. But perhaps even better about this kit are these outside corners. So let's say you've got a structure where the finished walls are like this, and you've got this inside corner. And I'm going to turn this around so you can see what's going on. The inside corner braces fit right around that corner on the inside of the structure. They glue in there and they keep that joint nice and tight and nice and a nice right angle, nice 90 degrees to that. So that's City Classics makes that kind of kit. So in this case, the check gauge is just fine because the nubs both fit in between the into the flangeway there. Now, here's a case where the check gauge is going to be a little bit too tight. And again, we'll put the nub in the flangeway between the guardrail and the stock rail, and we'll push it up against the guardrail, and we'll tilt this into the space between the frog and the wing rail. And you can see this nub is hitting the frog. It won't go in there, which means the frog is a little bit too far over. So even though the guardrail is doing its job pulling that wheel set over toward the stock rail, the frog is still too far over, and you're going to wind up with a bump or a derailment as those wheels go through.